Greetings and welcome to the Southside Help Center show. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and this is a live call-in show. So if you have any questions, please do give us a call here at the station. We got Miss Shauna Mitchell over there on the phones. Our number here is 312-738-1060. It is a live call-in show. If you have any questions, please do give us a call here at the station. This is the Southside Help Center show, and over the last maybe 8 or 9 weeks, we're just talking about the different programs that the center has to offer. If you'd like more information about Southside Help Center, please go to our website, www.southsidehelp.org, and you can just pull up all of the programs if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to make donations, and so forth. So please go to the Southside Help Center's website, www.southsidehelp.org. And this is our 25th year in business. This is our woo-hoo! This is our silver anniversary, and as we do know in social services, that is a long time, because so often in social service, so many agencies do not survive. In our 25-year history, we have seen quite a few who have not. So it's important that you understand that because of you and because of you using the services that we provide, the Southside Help Center has been in business now for 25 years, and this is our silver anniversary. So we will continue to talk about that. And one of the reasons we're so successful is because of you. So we'd like to thank you for allowing us to serve you, and we look forward to serving you over the next 25 years. So thank you for that. Phenomenal show today. I'm definitely going to do a phenomenal. I ain't even going to get started yet. Over the last few weeks, we talked about our programs dealing with our youth. We talked about our HIV prevention, education. We talked about our condom distribution program. We talk about safety counting sisters and what those actually are in terms of DEVI interventions and how important it is. And I want to make sure that I plug Safety Count again, because it's so important that we understand. When we start talking about Safety Counts, it's a program for people who are actively using. And what we do is we try to get them into a place where they want to make steps towards making changes. And again, it's a program that focuses on their own personal behavior and what they can do to make changes. It is for people who are actively using. That is a very important group. If you'd like more information about Safety Counts, please do give us a call at the agency, 773-445-5445. The other thing is our condom distribution program, because we always talk about prevention and how important that is. And we believe that if you have a condom, you're more likely to use a condom. So we have collaborated with the city of Chicago, and we have a condom distribution program where we're able to provide condoms throughout the city of Chicago. If you would like to be one of those partners, give us a call, because what happens is we'll get you registered. We'll provide you with the condoms. If you got that type of traffic coming through and you want to be one of those community partners, please give us a call, become a part of the condom distribution program. Again, you can get us on the website, www.southsidehelp.org, or call us at the agency, 773-445-5445. Now that I've done all of that, we're going to get into our topic of discussion, and this is a very important topic of discussion because it is so major that we take a look and that we provide necessary services. And again, what we're going to be talking about today, I have Mr. Sean. I'm going to let him give you his full name and title. Sean, tell them who you are.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cherry. My name is Sean D. Freeman. I am a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Illinois. I work with Mr. Cherry at Southside Help Center. We work with the BANK project, which is Building and Nurturing Communities of Color, which is a national project that actually serves to do capacity building for HIV prevention programs.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you. And this is a real professional here, licensed clinical social worker. And it's so important that we understand that that when you're working with individuals, it's necessary that you have the necessary skill set to deal with them in order to provide them with some quality of services. And again, we've talked about the BANK project as well, and it's our project. It's a national project where they go into other communities and other agencies and provide capacity building. And that means, so if you're a community-based organization and you're in need of some assistance, meaning that there's those gray areas where things are not going quite as well as you would like them to, contact the BANK project. And again, they'll give you the necessary steps in order to become a part of that process. Today we're going to be talking about, let me get it right, LGBTQ. And I'm going to let Mr. Freeman tell you what those acronyms or what that acronym is for.
Well, LGBTQ, it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, which is a subculture that we actually work with at Southside Help Center.
Okay. So, say it again.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer.
And queer.
Yes, you can say queer questioning, however you choose to define that Q.
Okay. And it's so important because, I mean, the reality is that so often we have to talk about the I want to say the elephant in the room, and for lack of a better term, we'll say the elephant in the room.
The pink elephant.
The pink elephant in the room, because it's just like sex. You know, we don't want to talk about it, but our kids are having it. They're actually doing it, you know, but we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to bring it into the schools because whatever the reason is. So that's like that elephant that we talk about there, where these are the seriousness or serious questions that we don't want to talk about. We start talking about lesbian, gay, bisexual, or questioning, then nobody wants to talk about it. But we have family, we have kids, and they are a part of the community, or they're experimenting with the community, but we don't want to talk about it. And the reality of it is we need to talk about it, shed light, because there's a number of different things that go along with that. And that's the whole reason for the show today. It's not just about this culture or the population or that. It's about those sub things that go on within the community and what we need to address and how we can address them, because the reality of it is these things are happening. And one of the things we want to talk about, we're going to talk about, one of our topics today will be on homelessness, and it's very important. And so I want you to talk about why sometimes they become homeless. When I say they, don't get offended. I'm not saying they. I'm just talking in general.
Okay.
Why do
this particular population?
This population. Yeah, I want to be politically correct, so thank you. This particular population, why is homelessness such an issue?
Well, you know what? I think definitely, especially when you look at people of color communities and you look at the LGBTQ, or let's say the gay population, I think that it is really challenging for parents to accept their kids. So they actually throw them out once they have actually identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. So that's why you see a large population, between 25 to 50% of the U.S. population that's homeless, that's youth that they identify as LGBTQ. Wow. It's a huge percentage.
And when you talk about youth, give me that range of where we're talking about when you're looking at youth.
From 14 to 24.
14 to 24.
14 to 24. You know, but now the CDC has a different understanding of youth, but we're going to say 14 to 24.
Right. Well,
for the purposes of today.
Absolutely. 14 to 24 is what we're looking at. We're talking about why so often are they homeless, because a lot of family members do find it difficult to accept a particular lifestyle. So they put them out. And what do they wind up? They wind up being homeless, because, again, when you start talking about youth, if you're talking about 14 to 24, oftentimes they're not able to support themselves. And when they become homeless, just talk about some of the things that go along with being homeless, because there's some other things that come along with that when we start talking about prostitution, when we start talking about drugs, commercial sex work, and so forth. There's so many different things that go along with that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Homelessness and what it all is, because it's not just not having a place to stay. It's a whole bunch of other things. That might be at the top of the list, but then we have to look at what is required to acquire. And this is for parents who do have issues or concerns with that in terms of their children and their sexuality, and then actually having them to lead a home, and some of the things that come along with that. And as parents, you know, is that really what we want for our children? When we talk, it's all about acceptance. So just talk a little bit about some of the other things that come along with that.
Well, you know, I think that when the LGBTQ youth becomes homeless, there's a lot of other factors that take place. You were just saying, like, the drug use. Again, how do I support myself? So I have to then sell my body. I have to sell something. Then I'm addicted to drugs. And then I have to do unsafe things because now I need to survive. It becomes survival sex. So then how do I then get from point A to point B? Well, what do I need what do I need in place? So I'm gonna need some drugs. I'm gonna need a roof. I'm gonna need food. How do I get all of these things? All of these things cost money. So you have to do something, which ends up being you doing commercial sex work, or you selling your body. That's what commercial sex work is, in terms of you selling something for something.
Something for something. And this is not always the case. So if it don't apply, let it fly. And when we start talking, about different things, this doesn't mean every gay youth that we have becomes homeless, because that doesn't happen. But we're talking about those, or the percentage of them that does. And Sean mentioned the percentage in terms of those who do. And those are the ones that we're looking at in terms of targeting and what we need to do to make necessary changes in behavior. So if it don't apply, let it fly. We don't want you to get all, that doesn't happen to everybody. I'm not that, and that's fine. But we're talking about the individuals who do, because often so many things come along with just being homeless or this particular population. And one of the other things we wanted to make sure we cover, because suicide is big.
Definitely.
So, let's just talk about that and make
sure. But even though, before I get to suicide, we want to talk about, because I think before that comes bullying. And I think we hear that a lot.
Yes.
And especially in schools, that you see a lot of this particular population is being bullied. And so that then translates to suicidal ideation, and which basically means the idea of suicide. So yeah, so that's the huge part in terms of you have to really look at bullying and how the role it plays with this particular population, and if we're going to talk about youth specific LGBTQ.
Okay, and it's very important. And again, Sean, if you got a point, make sure you make it. This is an opportunity because so oftentimes as parents, we don't get the necessary information. We don't want to hear it, but we got parents who do want to know. We got parents who are concerned about their youth or their kids and what needs to happen in order to, again, increase or improve the quality of life is important. We love our children, you know, and it doesn't matter in terms of sexuality, because when you love your children, you take everything about them. So it's important that those parents who are having trouble or having issues dealing what can happen. That's another thing we need to talk about. What can parents do? Or where can parents go? You know, because parents need support too.
Okay.
You know, and one of the things that people think that, you know, if your son has been your son for so many years and then he decides to be something else as a parent, and especially if you didn't see it coming, you know, I mean, that's why we came up with the term.
Do parents really not see it coming?
Sometimes, I mean,
really not see it coming.
Sometimes
for your LGBTQ child.
Well, because we know, Sean.
My parents said they always knew, and the parents that I talk to mostly, they've said I've known. Parents mostly say that they have this gut interaction, this gut feeling, this intuition that their child may be different.
Maybe different. That's a good word.
Maybe different. Not necessarily that they are ostracizing them, that they're trying to treat them differently, but just something inside them may say that they're different. But to answer your question, where can parents go?
Well, not yet, because I don't want to skip over that.
You don't want to skip over that. Okay,
because what happens, and this is with parents, that's where the term closet came from. Because even though and to a lot of parents, you know, we've become the masters of disguise in terms of behavior, you know, and it happens very young. You know, all gay men are not feminine. Let's get that established first. All gay men are not feminine. You got a lot of gay men who are very manly. So as a father, as a mother, and if that's not something, if they're not aware of a particular lifestyle in the home, it may be average. And we know all gay women are not, or females are not, I don't want to mess up. Don't get offended if I use the wrong term. Please forgive me. Charge it to my head, not my heart. If we have girls who don't act like boys and act like girls, we don't necessarily see that because they're acting what we consider to be accordingly. So then when we find out that my girl who's been a girl actually likes girls, then our behavior changes because we also have to make some accept. We have to accept a particular behavior as well. So as parents, you know, and sometimes we don't get to make a transition, or we don't get to deal with acceptance because these are our children and we love them 100%. But a lot of times, even as parents, when some parents do recognize or know, you know, and because of be it intuition, be it a particular behavior, what have you, they do see some differences in their children, and they be like, what's really going on? And then if their child decides to come out the closet or what have you, and they say, okay, well, I knew that. But there are parents who are totally unaware based on their children's sexuality because they boys, like I say, just because in terms of definition, and we always look at definition as how is gay or homosexual, how are these things defined, and it's important that we cover that as well because we don't want everybody to think that every man say in jail, we know that they don't identify as being gay. You know, a lot of them guys, they deal with the same thing. You talked about survival sex. So we want to make sure we cover all bases. We'll come back to that. Me and Sean got some time here, and we're going to talk about that. So if you want to be involved in this conversation, please do give us a call here at the station. This is a live call-in show. If you have any comments, questions, please call us, 312-738-1060, and be a part of the conversation. So suicide, you was talking about bullying and suicide. Let's go back there because that's going to be important as well.
Okay. That we definitely see, especially as it relates to schools, that a large percentage of the LGBTQ population are being bullied, which then that means that they have low retention rates for high school. And so there's a huge number of that population that drops out of high school. They feel that they're not going to graduate because I'm being bullied. I can't take it at school. So where do I go? So I end up dropping out. Now with without a high school diploma, education, jobs are very scarce.
Yes, they are.
So then now, if I can't get a job, how can I then survive? So it again goes back to what do I need to do to maintain a sense of survival? How do I eat? How do I put food on the plate, especially being a youth? What can I do?
So
see, there's a caller.
Yes, all of these things are very important. So we want to make sure we get them in. Caller, you're on the air. Yes, you're on the air, caller.
Yes, there's a place up north called Center on Halsted,
Uh-huh.
and it's an LGBT center.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of racism that goes on there.
Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure that we
And just-
cover that as well, Sean.
Okay. What else? What else were you saying in terms of? It's definitely a resource. Are you saying it's racism in terms of what? For people of color, LGBTQ youth to actually access services?
Our caller's gone. But
Okay.
talk about that, Sean, because we know that racism still plays a part. It doesn't matter the culture or the population is still going to be racist. Why is that, though?
Why is it there's racism? Ooh, that's a long question, Mr. Cherry.
It is, and then I want you to give us a short
I think
version.
just to get back to that, see, for me, that's always the unimportant part in terms of racism, because I don't necessarily think that agency is shows that to the population. However, through my interactions with the work that I've done, I feel a lot of people of color that look like me, look like you, they really don't go up there because they feel that they are looked at differently.
Okay.
And even the work that they do. So I mean, there's lots of resources around in Chicago and Illinois that you can actually get help with. But I don't think that it's necessarily about being racist, because I don't see them as being racist. I think that if you need a service, then you need to get a service, or we can make sure that we provide a service. And also, we have an MSM program at Southside Help Center. So if you feel that you want to actually identify with people of color, then you can do that. Or you can go to the Brothers Health Collective. You can go to Southside Help Center, that we have an MSM project. There's task force on the west side. So there are people of color agencies that are serving the LGBTQ population. If you feel that one majority is white and that they're not really servicing people of color, you can go other places to actually access services.
Okay, and that was the next thing, because through your experience, the Center on Halsted is not a racist. It's not about racism. You can pretty much access services.
From what I see, I don't see that. But again, the people of color that I do talk to feel that they do not want to go up there. Even coworker, even their colleagues, and I don't want to say anything, because I don't really know them personally. I do know the people that have been there, and even the coworkers, that are black and are gay. They say the same thing that caller just said.
Right. Well, we want to make sure that it's important that if you need services, that you go where you're comfortable at. So
Definitely.
The Center on Halsted provides services for LGBTQ. So if you're in that area and in need of services, definitely go there and have your own experience, because a lot of times,
that's what I say.
You have to experience things on your own, because it may not be the same way for you.
It may not.
Coming to the South Side, it may not be the same way for you. So go where you're comfortable. Be it the Center on Halsted,
Yeah.
Brothers
Or you can go
Health
to
Collective.
Broadway Youth Center.
Broadway Youth
This
Center.
just right down the street. Just go in a different direction. Go in the opposite direction, or you go further down
Yes,
to
sir.
Howard Brown.
Plenty of
so there's
places.
so many places. So if you feel that one place is not servicing your needs, then go. You can just walk down the street and go to another place.
Absolutely. Caller, you're on the air. You're on the air, caller.
When it comes to school bullying, okay, I think first of all, it should be zero tolerance, regardless of a child's sexual orientation. I think we need to start holding these school administrators
Definitely.
liable.
Yeah.
And instead, we start hitting them in the pocketbook. And you got a lot of these schools administrators, they looking the other way. They putting their heads in the sand, whatever. And I don't care of a child's sexual orientation. Anything that interfere with a child's education,
That's right.
it needs to be removed. Now, see, gentlemen, we can come together on a certain meeting of the mind.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely. It's going to be important, and that's major. Again, and we do need to hold people responsible.
Accountable.
Accountable, and even especially in our school systems. We had a conversation on last week where we were talking about what needs to take place in our school systems in terms of formal education, and as a part of formal education, it should be. And we talked about every child having a safe environment, a safe learning environment, and if that's not happening, they need to be held accountable. But again, we need parents to step up to the plate. We need parents to be more open with what needs to happen in terms of bullying in schools, because I heard a commercial on the radio earlier where they were talking about bullying in schools. So if they're on the radio talking about it, we sitting there talking about it. It is a reality that our children are being bullied. So it's important that we come together on a whole nother page and talk about what needs to happen so that our children have a safe learning environment.
But too, Mr. Cherry, I would say that parents also need to look at the signs. That when your child is first, if they're doing well initially, and then all of a sudden their affect, them, which in terms of their behavior starts to change, that they become a little depressed and they become like soft-spoken, those are some signs that you really have to look out. So as a parent, I think you have to really be aware of the signs that your child is exhibiting.
Absolutely.
Because then that means you need to have a conversation, but be ready and open for that child to actually come out and disclose to you their sexual orientation. And if you do need help, then you can go to PFLAG, Alliance. In terms of those parent-specific organizations that can actually talk you through that process of actually coming out.
Yeah. In my own personal experience, one of my sons who was actually being bullied just because he didn't want to become a part of a particular gang, and he was being bullied at school, but when he informed me of it, I mean, you know, as a parent, as a concerned parent, you know, I did not play with him, you know, about my son's safety. You know, he needed to be able to go to school and be comfortable. So I addressed it, and I addressed it hard. And not only did I address it to the school, and this is what's important, we wrote a letter to the superintendent of school, to the PTA president. We wrote letters to the principal of the school. We wrote letters to everybody, and we CC'd everybody so that they were completely aware that this situation was taking place, and that I, as a parent, did not allow it to go unchallenged. And we went in and we met. So I wasn't playing with them. So it's important. And again, it's about signs. If your children are not open with you, it is about recognizing different things, different signs, and then immediately addressing them. And one of the things, my big thing was with my sons coming up, don't tell me when they did something the second time, because what about the first time? So when things happen, we can address them. So it's important that as parents, that when you find out a situation has taken place in your child's life in terms of education, bullying, or whatever, you need to address it and hit them hard. Don't play with them. And again, pocketbooks always help. You know, hit them in a pocketbook or whatever is necessary.
But how did that go? When you did address, when you went to the superintendent, the PTA president?
Well, how did that go for me? Is this is what when it happened, and we went in there, and I wasn't. It was like 7 different people sitting around the table, and one of the things that they had mentioned to me, well, you need to write a letter. Little did they know I had already done that. So by the time they got there, I had already done all of the things. I had all the pieces in place, and the next day,
due process.
That's right. And again, documentation. Is I made sure that they documented every time that my son made a complaint, every time that I came to address it, and I needed to see each and every time that happened. And when that did not take place, I was able to call them on it. And with that in mind, the next day I received phone calls from everybody, you know, concerning that situation, because they knew I wasn't playing. You know, as a concerned parent, as a concerned father, you know, you're not going to just do anything to my children, and that's important. So what happened with that is they called me the next day. They wanted to make sure that this remained addressed. They put different pieces in place to make sure that he was safe, and that's all I asked for, you know, is that our children get be safe in school. We got a caller? Caller, you're on there. You're on there, caller.
Sometimes, even when you call law enforcement in it, and they want to dig their heads in the sand as well. And when they don't want to do that, sometimes you got to step outside the law, but you still try to keep one foot in. And I have been in that situation, and I have looked that child in the face, and I have said this sort of stuff. Okay, this way it's going to be. I can't whip your butt, but I can whip your daddy's butt.
Right, and the only thing about that is we have to be, and as parents, we know throughout the history, so many parents have got into physical altercations about their children with other parents and killed. So it's important that, as bad as we may want to take law into our own hands or become vigilantes, we can't do that. And the other thing about it, as parents, some of us send our kids out to school and we don't know that that's what they're out doing at school. So, you know, and then when it's brought to our attention, of course, we would like for them to be addressed. If not, then once we know that they've been put on notice concerning the situation with their children, then we can continue. I'm telling you, the law, you know, we cannot take the law into our own hands, and we cannot deal with it like that, because what happens is because parents will get involved with parents, and then children will continue to get involved with children, and it will come out of the law enforcement hands. And once you take the law into your own hands, you lose the power. You lose the power that you already had. So don't take the law into your own hands. And that might be what we want to do. And we might want to go and address the parents, but that's not always the best way to deal with circumstances. So as parents, and we don't want to get off the subject, as parents, we want to make sure we stay where we are. As parents, we want to do the best we can and continue to stay within the laws and the realms of the law, so that we don't get outside of that and wind up shooting and killing and stabbing one another as parents, and then our kids continue to mimic our own behavior. So
but
we
I
have
think,
to be careful.
you know, to bring it back, if we're talking about bullying in schools and parents, that the parent, you definitely, I would encourage every parent to have an open dialogue and communication with the teachers.
Absolutely.
Too. So you need to know what's going on, because if you have an open dialogue with a teacher, you already know what's going on. If you already been to parent-teacher conferences, you already know in terms of your child's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats at that school.
Absolutely.
And so you already know how the child is acting, their relationships as it relates to socialization with other kids. So you already would have that inclination. So if you're not having an open dialogue with a teacher, I would definitely say begin to have an open dialogue with teachers, so you'll at least know the interaction that your child is having in school.
Absolutely. So thank you. We appreciate your phone calls too. If you'd like to get involved in the conversation, we're talking about LGBTQ. So, and that's, Sean, give us the acronym.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning.
So, if you'd like to get involved in our conversation, please give us a call at the station, 312-738-1060. And we do have a caller. Caller, you on the air? Yes, caller, you on the air?
Yes. Yes, I was calling in regards to about what you all was talking about, the parents interacting with the kids when they're in school, and you have trying to keep the children safe. And I had 2 incidents that took place with my children some years ago, and the school knew that this guy was a bully, bothering children, and I've been up there once about the same incident, about the same child. So the next particular week, the children was on their way home, and the guy jumped on them, and I went back to school with them the next day and told them to go in the mobile building and kick his butt, both of them. Both brothers go in there and kick his butt.
And again, parents, I gotta say, that is not what we want our children to do. And I know we may be as parents, and bullying is not our topic today, but we definitely want to make sure we talk about what we can talk about. It's important that we talk about what happens, and we're talking about some of our children in terms of the population, and they are being bullied in LGBTQ. But as parents, we have to keep a cool head because that stuff continues. And the reality of it is we don't often think about the consequences that come behind something like that, because you may get them today, but what about if they get your child tomorrow? And then that's a continuing cycle, and sometimes they don't come up living. And that's why it's so important that we not use that as a solution. And we can say it, but it's important, and we have to keep pressing on in terms of with the school system, with the law enforcement, documenting each one of these situations. But all of us, if we took the law into our own hands when it comes to our children and bullying, it'd be a lot of dead parents and kids. Because all of us, first thing we want to do is want to get a gun. Because if somebody jump on your kid, your child, 2 people, that's going to just cause some retaliation from you, the parent, from the family, and that just goes on and on and on until somebody don't come up. And that's not what we want to do, parents. So, I understand that emotionally we get involved with our children and how our children are being addressed and dealt with. That's why we're having this conversation about LGBTQ, because it's important that we talk about our kids, their behavior, what needs to happen, how do we protect them across the board. So it's important that we remember as parents that we remain as calm as possible, and we have to, even though it doesn't always work the way that it's supposed to, we have to press on with that, because consequences to doing something different may not always come with you being on top. And then we have to talk about some other things, and that's as a concerned parent, and I've been, back and forth with the situation, for many years, so it's important that we not take the law into our own hands when we're talking about bullying or other situations where it concerns our children. The other thing we want to make sure we talk about, we talked about homelessness, we talked a little bit about bullying, I talked a lot about bullying. We wanted to talk about suicide, and what does that look like too in terms of the rate, and why do you think that suicide is a part of that particular culture?
Well, from the numbers, that LGBTQ are 8 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual counterparts.
Okay, and that's a lot.
That's huge number.
And I think that comes from, we deal with stigma all the time. We deal with how people are treating them and that sort of thing. So all of these different things come into play when you start talking about why they're more likely to commit suicide.
Definitely.
8 times more likely, and that's a lot. Those numbers are huge. So we
can even say 8.4 technically, but still 8 times more likely. That's huge, because you have to think of the different things. If I feel devalued in school, I can't talk to my parents. I can't come out. my community already says that what I'm doing is wrong and it's immoral, then who can I talk to? So then, therefore, you have a lot of other psychosocial factors that are now taking place.
Let's talk a little bit about the psychosocial factors.
Well, definitely in terms of depression, you definitely have to think about depression, because now if I can't talk to my family, then it becomes I internalize a lot of stuff, especially in terms of me coming out, or you begin to do dangerous things and actually your risk factors begin to increase.
Okay.
Because now I can't talk to anyone. So if I haven't told anyone all of these things, then how am I really getting positive, effective prevention methods?
Okay.
So, so now I'm having unhealthy relationships. I'm having unprotected sex. I'm out then on the street, let's say, because I do come out, or my family may find out that I'm having sex with someone that they don't agree with. And now I'm being put out. There's just a lot of other issues that come with you being identified as an LGBTQ youth, or an adult.
Let me ask you this, and we're going to talk about HIV prevention and so forth. All that's going to be a part of our conversation. One of the things I want to talk about, Sean, and again, Sean is a licensed clinical social worker, and he has a lot of, I want to say, different skill sets. He's a phenomenal individual, so that's why we have him today, and that's why we're able to ask him the questions. And I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity as one of my guests, so I truly appreciate you coming out, Sean.
Well, thank you.
The other thing is why do you think over the last, I don't want to say few years, but maybe over the last decade, we now see so many more of our youth that are either gay, lesbian, bisexual, or questioning? Why do you think that it is now?
Well, you know what? I really think that, to be honest, in terms of what I've seen is in organizations and when I see outside of my community, that it's actually more open and more accepting in the community, particularly the Black community, for you to actually be identified, even if you're a lesbian. I think they see it as more accepting.
Okay.
And so people are out. I remember when I was in high school, it wasn't too many people out. It was, I think I was probably like the only one, and I was in Harvey at Thornton. So it was really challenging. So to be the only one, and then now you see a whole lot of people that are actually walking down the street holding hands, being gay and being out. And necessarily in the city on the south side and the southeast side, you really didn't see that a lot.
No.
So you really see a huge transition of people becoming out and proud because I don't care now. So I mean, and maybe that's because we've become as a society more open to LGBTQ, but not necessarily that much open. But we have made some steps, I think, to progression. Definitely.
Okay. We got a caller. Let's get this caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, gentlemen.
Hey.
When it comes to this cyberbullying, we need to hold these elected officials to the fire because I mean, bullying is totally, I mean, we could probably agree on this. Bullying is totally different. A child can leave one school and go to another school. It can still follow them.
Yes.
And we need to, I mean, seriously, we really need some new laws in terms of dealing with this. You know, with these text messaging and all these images and things that they doing, trying to harm children. It ain't like it was 20 years ago. You know, like a child leave one school, that was it. It was over with. And I mean, seriously, when I have talked to some of these politicians about new laws, they talk to me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, and it's important that we hold them accountable. Because just like you said, today things have changed a great deal. I mean, of course, we still have so far to go. It's just like the brother talked about racism. We still got so far to go. You know, we may think we're there, but in reality, we're not. We still have so far to go. And again, how do we do that? By holding people accountable, those elected officials, those politicians, those principals of the school, those officers within the school, holding people accountable, especially when it comes to our children. It's so important that as parents, as community residents, that we hold forums. You know, that we talk about topics like bullying and what needs to happen, topics like LGBTQ and what needs to happen in terms of how do we keep our kids safe, you know, and who do we hold accountable? Who's responsible for who? Yes, as parents, we're responsible for our children, but as elected officials, now you're responsible for us because we elected you to do so. And if you didn't want to be that, then you shouldn't have put your hat in the arena, and you don't have to be held accountable to that. So we have to continue to hold those elected officials accountable.
I mean, I know the caller just talked about cyberbullying. That's important. But I mean, now we're not talking about an 18 or over. We're talking about, let's say, youth 14 to 17. If you don't know what your child is doing online, then you won't know that they're being cyberbullied. So that also means having a relationship with the social networks that your child is on too. you really need to be familiar with what's going on with your child. I know, like my nephews, they all have Facebook pages, but yet they're underage. So I don't even know how they do have Facebook pages. And they say the craziest stuff on their Facebook pages, but yet and still it's in terms of they're not being monitored correctly and properly. So you have to monitor to see what's going on with those social network sites, because then a lot of stuff is going on under your nose that you may not even know.
Right, and again, we started talking about LGBTQ on those Facebook pages. And listen, I promise you, if you didn't know, you'll find out a lot of stuff. So it's important.
You will. Yes, you will. You can see in terms of like who's on there, who's mostly on your child's sites, that friend list. You can really gauge a lot about your child just to see who's on their chat, who's on their friend list, and who actually they are chatting with.
And that's not to be a violation of privacy.
No, definitely. Kids don't have no privacy.
Say, in my house,
kids don't have no privacy.
In my house, they didn't have any privacy. My son once asked if he could get a lock on his door.
Privacy.
I told him, get a door. And then you can get a lock on it. So it's not even about that. It's a time, and really, it's really important that we monitor our children across the board. And it's just not about the sexuality, but because of the sexuality, that we monitor what they're doing. And we got predators across the board. And you got a lot of guys and girls who prey on our LGBT and youth because of what we talked about earlier, because of the homelessness factors, because when they get involved in substances, you got those predators that are like, I got some place for you to stay, I got something for you to get half of. So we have to be very aware of the circumstances.
But that has a lot to do with self-esteem, and self-worth, because if you feel devalued, you are willing to do and put yourself in those positions, Mr. Chair. You're willing to put yourself in those positions. If I can't talk to my parents about it. So I really believe that when you talk to your kids, even if you don't want to, you're not comfortable asking about sexuality, give them prevention methods that will cover everything.
They will cover,
They will cover everything. So that way your child at least know that they are loved. And I would say one thing, make sure that you do tell your child that you love them, because somebody else in the street will say, I love you. And that's the first time they've heard it. They're willing to do anything.
And we're going to stay on the prevention. We're going to talk about that. After this call, we're going to talk about prevention.
Gentlemen, why we cannot encourage our children, regardless of what issue they be dealing with, whether it's bullying or whether they thinking about committing suicide, and we need to tell them, look, you don't handle these things by yourself. Because, one, you don't have the maturity. You don't have the knowledge. And that's one of the things I think I guess we can meet on certain things, gentlemen. And I'm saying that we should encourage children to say, look, I've been across this bridge and back, and I can tell you what across over the bridge, whatever. And every child needs somebody to show them the way.
Absolutely.
And maybe if they had somebody to show them the way, we wouldn't have certain society problems that we have. And I said this before, and we can agree on this, gentlemen. There's three things every parent should do. One, you pass on knowledge. Two, you do what's in the best interest of the child. And three, if you can, pass on wealth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, and I do
like
too.
that.
I always tell my sons that the one thing that nobody could take away from them was the knowledge that I provided them with, because they can take your house, your car, and all of your money, but the one thing they can't take from you is what I gave you here. So as parents, it is important that we start very early, giving them as much as we can to combat all of the things, all of the ills that we know exist in this world, because we have been there and to this point have been surviving. So it's important that we share that with them.
But I do think I completely wholeheartedly agree with the caller. However, I feel that those three things are not necessarily being transferred to the LGBTQ population.
Okay.
The youth. I think that's the disconnect. That if once they do identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, they begin to become ostracized, and then it becomes like, well, we can't talk. Now there's a disconnect because you are not how I thought you were going to be. You're not what I envisioned you to be when you were born. You're an abomination. You're sin. You're going to hell. That becomes the focal point of the relationship between the parent and the child. And not, necessarily, I don't agree with what you do, but I love you.
Right.
You know, now if it was that kind of, you know, understanding, fine. Well, you may not agree with what I'm doing, but you love me because I'm your child. Now let's continue to have a conversation so I can then teach you some skills that you can take on through the rest of your life. I feel a lot of them, again, we were talking about homelessness. If a large part of the LGBTQ population are thrown out, they can develop those skills. They can't then get wealth, and they can't get knowledge from the parent.
Okay, is there some place for the parents to go? Because I talked about earlier, as parents, you know, we have to have
definitely
an adjustment
parents
period
are friends
too.
of gays and lesbians.
PFLAG. Did you have a number or anything for them?
No, but it's definitely, you could just call 311. We can probably get it if we do a break. I'll make sure that I can get that to you.
Right, or if not,
I can get on the phone. You know, now we're on text it, and you know, we are the age of that, so definitely I can bring it back momentarily. That number for you.
Well, this is what don't bring it
we
now.
don't bring
But
it
what
up.
we'll do is we'll get that information. If we don't have it, please call us at the agency. The number is 773-445-5445, or you can Google it, PFLAG, and it's tell them the acronym again.
Parents and Friends of Gays and Lesbians.
Parents and Friends of Gays and Lesbians. So it's important that if, as a parent, you're having difficulties or you're having issues, this is what some of the things that we can do as parents in order to make a transition or make an adjustment, because we can't stop loving our children because of this sexuality. We have to continue on. And one of the things Sean was talking about is the prevention part of it, and that's what we want to get into now. We want to make sure we cover prevention in terms of what needs to happen to keep our kids safe, because we'll go back. We're going to get to prevention. We want to make sure we take care of our callers.
We want to make sure, though, too, that they know that they can go to www.pflag.org.
Okay. We'll give you that again, too. So it's important that please, as parents, get as much information as you can, parent, because it's so important that we as parents take care of our children and provide them with whatever we can provide them with. And sometimes, as parents needing to make the transition, these are some of the places that we can go and learn more about what needs to happen. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
I want to say this real quick. It makes some sound surprising coming from me. There's an old carpenter saying, measure twice, cut once. There were the set of parents. Some of you folks maybe remember this in the news, all right? Their child told them they were gay, and they put them out. And the school they was going to, they was harassed so bad where this child got cut up, where they got chopped up, and they put the child's remains in a garbage bag. And the parent wished they never would have turned them out there in the street. And 2020 is hindsight, as the old saying go. But a lot of times you don't have to like it, you don't have to love it, but by God, that child is your bones, all right? And you're supposed to take care of your bones, up of your body. And when that parent put their child out there in that situation, now they crying, boo-hoo, and all that kind of stuff, and they wish they didn't do it.
Absolutely. And let me say this. That's why I give them that website again, because as parents, a lot of parents, we make mistakes. I don't want you to think for a second, and this is for us parents, and I'm gonna come to your defense on it this day, that because we make mistakes, we do things like that. And hindsight is 2020, and once the mistake is made, and then we have to deal with the consequences. So now we're talking about what can happen with parents, those concerned parents. Go to the website, go to parents, give it to me.
I can give you, do you want a Chicago? So, since we're in Chicago,
Chicago,
I can give you the Chicago too. www.pflag.org/Chicago.
And that's for the parents.
Yep.
Because, we can tell a lot of stories, and even though there's those that didn't make the stories on how, we regret. And I'm saying we, in terms of parents, in terms of the parental community, we make mistakes with our children, especially we the same ones that, we don't know how to accept things because we are human and we make a lot of mistakes. So I don't want to make no excuses for us. Love should come unconditionally. But I'm saying that if you are one of those parents, just try to find some help for yourself. So before you make an irrational decision with your child that you later on regret. So parents, stay involved. Think we got a caller. Caller, you on there?
Hi, I actually have a question regarding being a friend to someone that is homosexual.
Okay.
But engages in, has heterosexual relationships as kind of like a means to cover up the homosexuality. And we argue about it a little bit because I kind of feel that the people that they're in a relationship with is being bamboozled a little bit. And I just want to know if you have any advice.
Sean, you want to take that?
Well, you know what? I think that for me, I always tend to say, if they both are grown, then you stay out of grown folks' business. Because I think that that's your stuff. Again, that they haven't come to the full realization, or they haven't come to the actualization that they are homosexual, they are bisexual, because they probably identify as bisexual and not necessarily ready to openly disclose their sexual orientation.
So, but then I think so. I'm trying to figure in terms of what she's talking about. Is the female aware that they're identifying as bisexual? Because and because she said in her comment that they were trying to mask or disclose or conceal something. So are they identifying or telling the other individual involved in the relationship that yes, I am bisexual, and then continuing that on, or they and we're not going to start talking about the down low. I don't know what that term really means. We ain't gonna start talking about that, but
that's what it is.
In terms
but that's what it is. I mean, that's what it is. If we're being honest with that conversation, he's being down low. And he's not disclosing his bisexuality, or she said that he's really a homosexual, but he's masking it by dating this girl because he's not at a level of comfortability with himself.
Is he being down low or low down? I'm just kidding.
Both.
So we do understand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Don't send me no emails now. Okay, we got a caller. Caller, you on there?
I have said this: if you in a relationship with somebody, and certain things concern you, all right, maybe you guys will co-sign on this. Do a credit check. Do a background in terms of education. If they lie about one thing, they can be lying about some other stuff as well. So therefore, do your research.
And
Google them. Google them.
Let's talk about prevention.
You didn't like that question? I like that question. Do your research. She didn't do her research. The girl she know.
Listen, I've been talking about.
You already know how you can tell. Do a couple of things. Look.
I've been talking about relationships versus sex ships on this program for forever, and what's important. Do a 90 and 90, where you could talk about people's history and not just get involved in the sexuality of it, just get involved in the relationship part of it, so we can build the foundation, and that may come with a credit check. I don't know. Things have truly changed. So if that's what's necessary, hey, Google them, credit check them.
You'll see. Go on their Facebook page, set up a,
you gonna remain
anonymous person, befriend them, see who they tweeting.
Right, you gonna remain single. That's what you gonna remain.
And if you see a lot of men on that page with half naked, maybe this person
the internet is taking off to a whole nother level. So, like I said again, do a 90 and 90. When you start talking about our relationships versus our sex ships, do a 90 and 90 where you can talk to an individual about different things and find out who that person is before you get involved in anything else. So just try that, and let's try to stay away from the Facebook. And I'm just saying.
You're getting caught up, Mr. Cherry. You're getting caught up in that conversation. That was a little. Caller, you took it to another level with that one.
Yes, you did, caller. But again, prevention. Let's talk about prevention because our time will be gone. So truly, let me just say thank all of you for calling in. It's important that you become a part of the conversation. The Southside Help Center, again, this is our 25th anniversary, and we thank you because without you, we would not have been able to be in business for this long. Hopefully, you're taking down some of this vital information where we start talking about LGBTQ and what needs to happen in terms for parents, what you can do, as well as what youth can do, different places you can go. If you are questioning, different places you can go if you're gay, bisexual, lesbian, different places you can go, be it on the north side, south side, east side, Southside Help Center. In the West Side. The Southside Help Center does have a program that specifically speaks to MSM, and MSM is men who have sex with men, and it's over on 55th and Lake Park.
Yep,
55th and Lake Park. And again, if you'd like more information about that, go to our website, www.southsidehelp.org, and check out some of the programs. If you'd like to be a part of that, if you'd like to donate or what have you, go to our website. Prevention. Let's talk about that, Sean. What does prevention mean, and what needs to happen for us to try to control the HIV positivity rate?
Okay. Well, when we talk about prevention, I think that it's certain things that we have to make sure that we talk to, especially since I think the conversation is geared with parents talking to their kids. I'll keep it there. That in terms of it's just about condom usage, condom negotiation. What does that mean to actually negotiate? Because I think the dynamic changes when it's two men. When it's a man and a woman, you realize that typically the man has the power to whether or not they're going to engage in safer sex by using a condom or not. It's usually the man that's bringing the condom, not the woman. So when you have two men, it becomes the dynamic changes. When you have two women, the dynamic changes because then you're not really thinking about condoms, so you're thinking about other barriers. So now you're thinking about dental dams, and actually, what does that mean to have a dental dam? And that's just basically some little form that you're going to put over the vagina to make sure that you're it's a barrier.
Right, and of course they got the FC2. Which is the female condom too. And that's very important when you start talking about prevention because it's like
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I have. I've actually attended meetings where we talked about the FC2, which is the female condom too, and it gives you so much more power across the board. When you start talking about the female condom, it's used for men and women. Again, if you like more information about that, we give them away free. So you come by the center, call, you can get those for free, and those deal with male and female. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily always have to be the one with the condom. This empowers you, whether it's the same-sex relationship, male, female, if you're a woman, and you want to be more empowered, find out FC2. That means the female condom too, and it definitely gives you some options. It's made from a different material than before. Well, we changed it. It's made from something different than that.
They changed it.
We changed the material, and what happens is it takes heats better, it's formed better, so you get more pleasure through it. So it's important.
But the first female condom was polyurethane.
The first one was polyurethane, and we did that because some people were allergic to the latex, so we switched that up. And then now what we want to do, we start talking about prevention or condom usage, because we could talk about what's safe: no sex, no drugs, no problem. Or two individuals get involved in a monogamous relationship where there's no HIV present. Again, and monogamy means that you have a level of trust that's unmatched, where you're in a relationship with one individual, there's no HIV present, then that's 100% safe as well. So no sex, no drugs, no problems. But a monogamous relationship, in the true sense of the word, is also 100% safe when there's no HIV present. So when we start talking about condom and condom usage, what needs to happen, we want you to be as safe as possible, and we believe that if you have a condom, you're more likely to use a condom. We don't want you to get hot and heavy and then ask where's the condom, or then have to go and get a condom, because the likelihood of that happening really goes down. The percentage of that really goes down. So we say be prepared, be that male or female condom. The FC2 is definitely changing the game, because again, it's made of different materials. It kind of conducts heat a little bit better. It conforms to the vagina or the anus a little bit better than the polyurethane one. So please become a part of that condom distribution program as well, because we want to make sure that people have what they need to engage in safer sex. It's so important, because
and so even with that female condom, they can just take that ring out and still use it for anal intercourse insertion.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of people, and especially men, always kind of like, oh, I can't use that because it says FC2.
Well, that's why we kind of call it the FC2. We're gonna take away the female, and we talking about prevention, and that's why we call it the FC2. We just talking about prevention. What will prevent you? What needs to happen in terms of protection, and the female condom works just as well, whether it's same sex, whether it's men on men, or whether it's male to female, it works the same. So that's why we want to push the FC2. If you'd like more information about that condom, call us at the agency, 773-445-5445. And you can get more information on how to get them free. Walgreens do carry them at a reduced price, which we appreciate that, Walgreens. They're about $5.99 for 3. So if you would like the reality, it's called the reality. If you would like a female condoms, if you're not around where Southside Help Center is, and you would like to check them out, please do go to Walgreens. Walgreens carry them. They're one of few who do carry the FC2 female condom. So please go check Walgreens out. They got them at a reduced price. We like thank Walgreens. That's your plug, Walgreens. Thank you. We appreciate that, because not everybody has become as open about what we're talking about as Walgreens and others. So it's important that as a community we all come together and talk about what needs to happen for our kids. Sean, is there anything that's burning that you want to share where it comes to LGBTQ and what needs to happen?
Well, I think, for me, what's burning is that if you are a parent of a child who is LGBTQ, or you may suspect they are, I think that you have to be open to be able to communicate with them and have establish a sense of trust with your child, if you do feel that they are. But also make sure that you arm yourself with resources, because that conversation of disclosure, of initial disclosure, is extremely difficult to have for your child to openly say to you, I'm not the person who you thought I was. And they may feel a whole lot of other stuff. So arm yourself with information and pamphlets to even know what it means for a child to actually come out and disclose to you their sexual orientation.
And that's big. And I like the word when he said arm yourself, because we think that means get a pistol. No. Arm yourself with resources. It's so important that you do that, because some parents just want to harm themselves, and we saying, parents, arm yourself with resources, because that
arm yourself with the resources.
Get as much information as we can, and definitely arm yourself with resources. So again, we would truly like to thank Mr. Sean D. Freeman for coming out and sharing such vital information. And callers, we would truly like to thank you for calling in to the Southside Help Center show. This is our 25th year anniversary, and again, it's only because of you, so we'd like to thank you. Also, we'd like to pay homage to our founder, Mrs. Betty Smith. She founded the agency back in 1987, and thank you, Mrs. Smith, for that.
Thank
you.
We'd
like to pay homage to our executive director, Ms. Vanessa Smith. She is who is the head of your organization now and keeping us going in the right direction. So thank you, Miss and Mrs. Smith, for 25 years of service. We'd like to thank both of you as well. And again, we'd like to thank all of you out there. Until we see you again, we bid you peace.